All right, welcome to our PM security sync up. Philippe, I think you've got the first item.
Yeah, real quick. Some feedback on configuring analyzers because I've been fighting, especially with the GoSec one lately. We had a workhorse project that was in its own repo, and then we moved that to be inside the GitLab repo. So GitLab is becoming a kind of model repo now. And it was extremely tedious to just re-enable the SAST analyzer for this specific part of the project. Long story short, the analyzer is looking for Go files everywhere in the repo. And if you want to cache the dependencies, which is, I think, always a good idea, it's going to scan all the dependencies as well. So if you don't do anything, that gives you a runtime of approximately 10 minutes extra for just analyzing something that you will ignore in the end. And so there's an option in the GoSec, in GoSec, not the GoSec analyzer. There's an option in the underlying tool to be able to ignore some path, but there's nothing exposing these kind of parameters in the analyzer. So I got stuck and I was super frustrated to see that the tool is doing more than the analyzer and there's no way to bypass that. I found a workaround because GoSec for some reason is ignoring some very specific folders. So I ended up putting the cache in these folders so that it would be ignored. But yeah, just wanted to say that if we could have more control on the tools that are underneath, that would be easier for us. And I saw Taylor. Yes, Taylor is there. Hi, Taylor.
So a couple things here. We are planning to support the no detect pattern. This is something we're looking at. The problem right now is that the syntax for that across all of our tools is different. So we haven't exposed it because of that complexity. As we migrate to SemGrep, we're planning to standardize on that. The other piece that we're doing is we're going to change our post filters to pre-filters so that anything that is excluded is actually not going to get the analyzer run on it. So kind of running the analyzers on specific files in two places, both in the code level with ignore comments, and then allowing you to actually not trigger the analyzer with pre-filters.
Right. When can we expect that? Actually?
With all of the performance and scalability work, who knows?
All right, that's my point. So I'd rather have something that is very simple, and I understand that this kind of simplicity also brings its share of issues. But if in this case, I know exactly what I'm doing, and I know I'm not going to introduce any side issues in the analyzer, so it would be a lot easier for us to just open that door and close it later to say, we want you to do exactly the specific scenarios, and this is how you're going to do it. But right now, we are kind of stuck in this place where we don't allow users to do what they want to do because we want them later on to do exactly what GitLab decide what they will be able to do. So I'd rather choose simplicity over more complex features here. That's more my point. I don't know if it's clear or not, if that makes sense.
Yep.
All right. Perfect. Thanks. Thanks for sharing the tray filter. I was not aware of this one. All right. If there is anything else, Sam.
Yeah. So I think Philippe, you're and I don't know, Dominic, maybe you as well. You're generally aware of the challenges we've got with getting a couple of our packages upgraded. We've got some vulnerabilities in them that, you know, a key set of our customers are pushing back on and wanting to make sure that they're not present. We actually have mitigations in place for some of those vulnerabilities, but nonetheless, the vulnerabilities are still there. So my question is there any way that we can get ahead of this in the future, you know, so that we're acting proactively here instead of reactively, and we're able to identify some of these really old vulnerabilities ahead of time, especially the ones that have higher critical severity levels.
Dominic, you want to take this one? Maybe?
We don't really have a process, and a big part of the problem is that it's very hard to find, and with security it's probably a little easier, but for GitLab in general it's very tough to find owners for gems, for dependencies in general. And sometimes we in AppSec will just, if it's just a version bump, super easy, we'll do it. But with the big one that's causing issues right now, forgot the name of it, I think it's OmniAuth or something like that, migrating to version 2 is just like, we can't do this. It requires a lot of expertise. And so those gems, we have a hard time finding an owner, one, and two, prioritizing it. Like, especially again, in that case, this has been mitigated and non-issue for 6 years. So no one's going to be like, yes, let's do this, instead of what the customers want. So yes, the short answer is no, there's no process. With the kind of crisis going on, we'll need one. And yeah, finding owners will be the big deal, I think. And having other people than us monitoring the dashboards is going to be the report, I should say, still call it dashboard, will be something that needs to happen, because we're less than 10 people looking at the dashboards for all the projects, and a lot of things will fall in cracks, and we don't have as much expertise in the code itself. So other people would have better assessment than we do on how hard it is to fix or not.
That's actually a question I have for you. I know, at least on my team, we proactively look for criticals and highs. If it's not a critical or high, honestly, we don't give a shit. You know, like, we'll flip through them, but in most cases it's probably a dev dependency or transitive or whatever. But do other teams not do that? And if they don't do that, should we start applying pressure? Because right now in product, there is, within the priority list, infra dev issues should be taken into consideration. Severe bugs should be taken into consideration. HackerOne issues should be taken into consideration. Do we need to talk, like, does the security department, not we here, need to talk to like the product department, meaning like Anoop, etc., and be like, this needs to be a thing you all are doing? Because it sounds like somewhere it's slipping through the cracks.
Yeah, for sure. I think most of the smaller-ish projects, the independent projects, I should say, like GitLab and Runner, the devs will look at the reports every now and then, and yes, if there's a critical or high, they'll probably address it. Most of the issues come from the big Rails repository. Just everyone opens the page, sees 70,000 issues, and then runs away. So that's our big issue right now. But yes, there definitely needs to be some sort of shifting kind of. Right now, I think officially AppSec kind of owns looking at those reports and then creating the issue and pinging the devs and getting it prioritized, but it should be more proactive. And I believe there are talks with product, but I'm not in those meetings. Yeah, it is being talked about frequently, at least internally, and I hope it's moving outside of our department. But the managers who are not here today could talk more to this.
So I guess we can follow up next week, because I think obviously everything that's older will come up whenever certain customers bring it up. Like you said, with the 6-year-old one, you know, that's been mitigated. But I think it would be interesting if, you know, we worked with product and came up with something similar to that little triage bot that at least harasses me on a weekly basis, or maybe it harasses product and says, these were the new ones in the past 7 days. Because to your point, we don't want to give everyone, here's everything that happened in the past 14 years.
Yeah, yeah. Though at some point it was not for dependencies, but for old security issues that came from HackerOne and other sources, we had a bot that kind of pinged every now and then. And I know we were asked to turn it off because it was annoying. So.
But was it only doing it for the P1, P2 hacker ones, or was it doing it for all the hacker
Probably
ones?
not, but I mean,
Okay.
we have
So-
P3s that are 3 years old. And we have an SLA of 90 days. So at some point, I know we have so much more things to do, but
yeah, and I
there's an
think
SLA.
yeah, I mean, we got to start somewhere, and unfortunately, I think even if people find it annoying, we've got to at least annoy them for a small bit of it and get them used to it.
Yeah, so I like these ideas. I agree. I think we're going to need to have something that is at least somewhat automated here and pushes it out to the dev teams. I'm happy to take this discussion into an issue and open an issue so that we can look at it some more. But, just looking at the challenges we're having with that customer base currently, I'm sure this is not the last time this is going to come up. And if there's any way we can get out ahead of it proactively, that would be best. So the sooner we start working on that process, the better we're going to be. Anyway, so if I've got your buy-in to at least, explore this and find a way that we can start getting this automated, I'll open an issue. And, let's keep the ideation going there, because I like the ideas of having an automated bot, or introducing something that's another metric, because we're already evaluating our metrics on a monthly basis. There's a lot of pressure there to meet a certain standard. If we can kind of loop this into some of our existing processes, I think that'll be a good way to get ahead of this in the future.
Yeah, and I think dependency scanning finds are by far the most reliable finds from the scannings. Like, if the version is not good, the find is a true positive. So we can have automation on that and have it like not drown in alert fatigue. Like when you're pinged because the dependency is too old, it is actually too old. So I think there's definitely something we can do here.
We do have 2 backlog items for at least identifying dev dependencies versus not. That's probably not coming, unfortunately, for 6 months. But I am hoping that right now we get told we have a lot of false positives, but really what they mean is it's stuff we don't care about. And so I'm hoping if we start being able to notate this is a dev dependency right in that info bit, that at least people would start being like, okay, if it's a dev dependency, I will close it out because we don't, we're not concerned about it or whatever.
Yep, and we've got a very similar issue on container scanning that Philippe keeps poking on. That's in our backlog and probably at least 6 months out, but yeah.
If we could stop having rapid actions.
On a side note, just to voice my comments, where is it? I lost it. We started a discussion. There it is. I'm highlighting that in the agenda to include the security in the calculation of our budgets. And the goal of that is obviously to shift left as much as we can, because as Dominic said, we kind of declared bankruptcy on the vulnerability reports. There's no way we can handle this amount of data. And we will have to involve developers at some point. We don't know how, we don't know when, but that's a necessity. We know that.
I know, I just remember this, Andrew, he was the AppSec stable counterpart for, forgot the name of the group, but the people handling the customers repository, I think it's Growth. He's working on a process with them to integrate it as part of their workflow to look at the repository. So we're starting at the vulnerability reports. So kind of take that experience on a smaller team, on a smaller volume of vulnerabilities, and then move that to other groups. So there's some work being done for this.
All right, anything else on this one? Or Philippe, do you want to move to number 3?
Yeah, it's actually directly linked to that. And I just want to, that's just a reminder because I'm pretty sure Derek, you're fully aware of the issue already. We have disabled Dast. It also in the same idea of rebooting completely the vulnerability management at GitLab because we are more than stuck on that. We asked already to infra to completely wipe out all the results for the GitLab project, but this is not the only project. So that we would lower considerably the number of vulnerabilities that we have to manage, and we will re-enable Dast only when we are sure that we're not going to bring back again like 5 or 6K every week. And so that means we need to upgrade to Dast 2 because this is where we do where the results are aggregated. I expect to have a lot better results, but we definitely need your help to set up that because last time it took us something like 8 weeks to achieve this. And I'm not sure that we have 8 weeks again this time, considering the size of the team.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I saw that Seth did respond in the issue, and Nikhil has been working through some of the problems. I think I would say to Seth's point in the issue, I think that it makes sense for Nikhil to try to set it up as much as possible himself with our help, rather than us just going in and doing it. That way he knows everything about the configuration and is aware of what he needs to do and can offer input to us. But that being said, anytime he does run into any issues, I would just say that pinging the team in Slack or posting on that issue and asking for some help, we'd be more than happy to work through any specific issues that he has.
Thanks. To be honest, I added this point a long time ago, and that was right before the rapid action. So we were a bit afraid of starting this gigantic task, without any support because you would be completely focused on the rapid action. But I understand that's not the case. You would have some engineers available, so that's cool.
Yeah, we will have to help out with something like that. The rapid action, I think, doesn't affect us quite as much as it does some of the other groups. We do have some things to work through, but we can spare time to help you out there.
That's great. Thanks. All right, let's be respectful of time. I will move on to the next point if there is anything else. Exactly in the same vein again, we have just too many findings in these vulnerability reports. There's a link here that I'm highlighting in the agenda. We already asked infra to completely wipe out the results. You can see that this issue was open July 13. We are August 12, so that's exactly a month from now. We're still at the same point. That is absolutely scary to me because every time we will do a mistake, we will enable an analyzer that will completely flout out the vulnerability report. We know it's lost. We will have to wait weeks to have something manageable again, and that's not something we can afford in AppSec. So we will need a way to get more control on the vulnerability reports, and obviously we can't be maintainers of all the projects around there. There are some projects where I don't even have access, so we need to find a solution. I'm not asking for a security role per se, but I don't know, something in the settings where we would have more control than the others to be able to do that. That's going to be very blocking for us real soon as we are adding more projects and we are enabling more secure analyzers. We are generating more and more results.
As a really dumb question, why do you want to delete them all instead of like mass dismiss them all with a comment that we could like script something to go in and do that like every second, just start and go through and clear them, because that probably would have completed by now.
That's a solution, but in this case we are completely flooding the dismiss bucket. We know that as soon as we dismiss something, it's going in this huge bucket with thousands, maybe millions of vulnerabilities, and we won't be able to weed out what is really something in there that we dismissed because we decided to do. And it seems very inefficient to just mass ignore something, which generate data. We right away mass ignore it. It's not.
I mean, that's
Also,
basically what you're doing when you're deleting them almost.
No, actually, because if we dismiss a true positive, the next scan will not recreate it because we have dismissed it. While if we delete, the next clean scan with fewer analyzers and all that will bring that back up, and then we can see it. Because if we just dismiss everything, the actual positives are going to be lost forever, I think.
I mean, I don't know if this is an acceptable alternative, but if you resolve anything that is picked up again, we'll have a new record created. So that's I think the fundamental difference between a dismissal and a resolve.
That could work if we
Yes,
can.
that could work technically on the paper, but
like,
that won't work for us for a good reason, because we're trying to reboot our vulnerability management program, and that starts with metrics that we don't have right now. So if we start doing mass updates, we're going to completely screw up all the metrics that we have. We want to be able to measure exactly what we're doing. If something is resolved, that means we took an action and it's resolved and we did the right thing. If we dismiss something, that's because it's a false positive, and that's going to impact the false positive rate that we want to measure. We want to start measuring, we want to start building something around data. The data is there, we just don't do anything. And the end goal of that is to be able to tweak and to improve the configurations so that we can see the impact and the effects of every configuration change that we are going to make.
But the thing is, if it recreates a new record after a certain date, you can just ignore everything before the date that the script stopped. Because if you delete, you'd essentially be starting over at date X, let's just say August 20th. So if you just only look at things going August 20th, wouldn't it also have similar, like this popped up as a new item again, or this popped up as refound again?
I think he's expecting to have to rerun this in the future though. Like if we ever turn on an analyzer and it creates 50,000 results, we're like, oh crap, we'd like to just remove those 50,000. Like
we had the case. I'd like to share that experience with you. We had the case for can't remember if it was Secret Analyzer or SAST on the project where the pipeline was reporting very few results. And when it was merged into master, it was thousands of results because master has a different configuration, and the analyzer started to scan cache files and some other things that were not in the branch for some reason. And there was nothing I can do to fix that. It was there, it's done, it's all right. There's nothing I can do, and we're stuck now. So there will be some more cases like this. And we have this project,
Right.
Also linked in there, where we have
If you have to
35,000.
wait on the database team for it to happen, whenever that happens, you're going to keep being worse and worse and worse off. So I'm saying, like, for now, doing that script might be a good band-aid.
Maybe having a new dismissal reason, like we have multi-fix and false positive and whatnot, just like a technical issue, setup issue, just one that we could exclude from the metrics. Like it wasn't a bad scanner finding, it was a configuration issue, and now we have 10,000 issues we won't even look at and we want to remove. Like some sort of different dismissal label. Maybe.
Also remember that currently we are downloading all the vulnerabilities just to be able to build the metrics that we want to build, and downloading is taking a lot of time. For the GitLab project, for example, we have more than 130,000 findings. Most of them are dismissed, but we still need to download them all the time because there's no way to bulk download, and we download them by pages of 100. So that's thousands of pages that we need to download just to have a fresh version of all the dependencies. there's probably a better word, but that's where we are right now.
I can't say for certain, but that may be part of our rapid action and performance improvement work that the Threat Insights team is basically spending the next 2 to 3 iterations on, is a lot of the underlying services that are slow like that. So that may very well, it's not going to take care of there being 130,000, but the performance of loading, I'd say there's a very good chance that that will get addressed. Like that's something I should check in on. So that's only on the vulnerability report when you're actually trying to load that page, because I know that's one area we're trying to optimize.
We use the API directly. And when you use the API, you have a pagination that the max number of items in there is 100. So that's thousands of requests that we do on the API just to be able to get all the data that we need. And so we put that in a local DB so that we can query this DB later on. We can build metrics, we can search for items, we can order the where we want. We're kind of building our own dashboard because the ones that we have are just for triaging. But if you want to do more, it's not enough for us. That's why we're doing this initiative.
Hey, Dominic, to your comment earlier about the dismissal types, we do have, that was actually something that was in progress, and then we hit a piece of technical debt. We put a link in there. And basically we have 1 or 2 large pieces of technical debt we need to address to unlock a few feature pieces. And those have now been deprioritized for the rapid action, the database vcomp, and several other things that people are screaming about. So all this stuff is there. It's just been shifted out till, I don't know, probably November at the earliest.
All right, we
We're
are
at time.
at time.
We can carry on my next
Yeah,
point to the next one.
we can carry those to next time and or handle them async.
Yeah, mine was more of an FYI.
All right, thanks everyone. Have a good week.
Thank you so much for your time. Bye-bye.